Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're looking at what I've learned in 365 days of using Duolingo. Now I'm learning Spanish on Duolingo, and so I've been doing that for just over 365 days, which is of course just over 1 year. Okay, well this is just a little bit embarrassing. I recorded this video when I crossed a year of Duolingo, but I'm now nearly at 2 years. I recorded this video, I edited it, but I never put it up on YouTube. But I'm doing it now for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I still think it's good information. I just went through it and I would still say the things that I'd said in that video. I also want to have a permanent reminder for myself as to where I was in my Spanish learning. I've added a few spoiler alerts through the video to indicate things that are new and changed and things that I'll update in a few months' time when I do cross that 2-year mark. I'm still doing Duolingo. I still love it. I still highly recommend it. I've got heaps and heaps of things to talk about past the 2-year mark, so look forward to that video in the next few months. But for now, let's take a small step back in time to early 2020 when COVID had just struck and I had just crossed the 1-year mark at Duolingo. And I thought it was a good time to look back and see what I have learned. So I have a few questions I was posing to myself, and here they are, and here are the answers. The first one is probably fairly obvious, is how's my fluency going? Well, it pretty much sucks. I'm not fluent in any shape or form. I'm learning Spanish, but I'm not fluent. So if you were to have a conversation with me in Spanish, I'd probably be looking at you a little bit blank. I understand a lot of words, but I'm way far from being fluent. Now, when you're learning a language like Duolingo, there's a tendency to actually just use Duolingo as your learning platform. I do use some other resources. What I did was sign up for a class that was run locally, and of course it's moved to online right now. It's an hour and a half a week, and it's done through our local junior college. It's not great, it's not everything, but it does help boost my training. I also bought a book, and this is the book that I bought. Now, it probably would be a lot better if I actually used the book. I've looked at it occasionally. I think I'm probably ready to start looking at it again because I know so much more Spanish that I think the way that the book is laid out will help me. Initially, it was just too confusing. They were throwing additional vocabulary at me, and I wasn't able to understand what the book was saying, and I was just really struggling with the amount of vocab. So I think now, 12 months down the track, I'm probably ready to open the book and just get it to help me with some of the questions that I have. Now, I also write notes. I don't often review them, but I do write them. So I take a screenshot every time I don't understand something or anytime I trip over something on Duolingo, and then I write it into a book. Sometimes just the process of writing it into the book is an interesting way of revising things. I'd probably do a lot better if I read my notes though. In future, I'd sort of looked at what sort of resources I might look at in future. I'm somewhat tempted by the app Hello Talk that you can install on your phone. Haven't used it much. I've only just maybe replied to a few people's comments there, but I think that it probably would have some value for me. I'll be looking at some sort of conversation option, some way of actually communicating with somebody in Spanish. I was doing that at one stage with somebody that I was meeting at Starbucks in the morning, and we just sort of say hello and maybe a few sentences. But of course, the coronavirus put that on hold. The other thing, of course, to use in future in terms of resources is actually that book that I've got. Now, you might be curious as to how far I progressed this year. Well, I did learn a lot of irregular verbs and a lot of verbs in the present tense. We've also learned some future tense and some past tense. So that's been kind of cool in that I've got a little bit more range in my conversation and learning than I thought that I would probably have at this stage. Now, Duolingo Spanish, which is what I'm doing, has, apart from this intro section, which is this one here, it has big groups of learning. So there's learning 1, and these are all the topics in learning 1, and then there's learning 2 and so on. Well, I got down to the beginning of 3. You can see that I've finished up one topic here. I've got another topic here that's not complete, and I've got some other topics that I'm sort of working through. And then as soon as I go and get description to level 1 here, then I'll open up the next row. So I'm still ways to go even in section 3. So out of 25, that's not a lot of progress. Do I mind about that? No, this is not a race. I just want to enjoy learning Spanish, and so if it takes me a long time, it doesn't really matter as long as I'm learning. I do commit to doing 20 XPs, 20 points worth of stuff every day. So you can see this is my daily goal of 20 XP. Well, today is 76, and that's not unusual for me. Sometimes I will do 100 or more a day. So I'm generally exceeding the commitment that I made to practice Spanish every single day. In terms of what I feel like I've learned, there are a few things. One of them very early on was I walked into Target and there was a sign above the shoe department that said zapatos, and I thought, oh my goodness, I know that word. I learned that on Duolingo. So that was like kind of cool that I started to see things that I understood, at least words that I understood. I also watched a movie on Netflix called Two Popes, and one of them was speaking Spanish, and I caught a few words that I knew as that was going on, as I was watching the movie. So that was really kind of cool. I'm able to read some words on product instructions. So if I buy something new and it has instructions in Spanish, I'll look at that and just see how many words that I can identify. I feel like I'm on the way. I definitely feel like I'm making progress. I'm nowhere near fluent. I'm nowhere near even pretty good at grammar, but I'm getting there. I'm working at it, and that's a really exciting thing. Now, in terms of Duolingo, the features that I liked is I really like the gaming interface. This is this league here. So they are, I think they're like 10 leagues or something, and I made it to Diamond League pretty quickly. And so my challenge each week is to stay in Diamond League. So they put you in with, this group is 30, it's usually 50, but this group is just 30 people. And the bottom 3 people are going to be demoted to the league underneath. And so my challenge was always to stay in this top league. And then I started not just trying to stay in this league, but actually be high up in the league. And when I started to make that my challenge, be sort of above 20, then I started to learn even more. So you can see here, this is only the second day in this particular round. You're in the league for 7 days. I'm at position 4. I would be challenging myself now to try and get to position 3. I generally don't beat these people at the top. I'm happy not to do that. I have other things in my life going on, but I do try and get as high up as I can within the league, and definitely not be the person or persons who are going to be demoted here. I don't want to be down there. So that's my challenge each week. So I really like that gaming interface. I like the things that Duolingo has done that have changed since I started using the app. So one of the things that changed was that they now have hard practice. So I can go back to a topic I've already done and I can sign up to do hard practice. And that is, as it says, is harder practice. It also gets me 20 points. So I could just do one of those and that would be my practice for the week. So I've liked the harder practice, and I tend to do harder practice more than I do bringing these items back in. So you can see this one's got a sort of fracture lines through it. That means that I haven't practiced it for a while, and so I could tap on here, but I would only get 10 XP for practicing it and restoring it, whereas I can get 20 for going and doing some hard practice. So I tend to do hard practice more than I do bringing these forward. I also find that they sort of disappear, the cracks disappear. So the fact that I haven't done a lot of restoring things, I haven't got a lot to restore because the cracks disappear occasionally and then you get new cracks on other things. So if I wait until the crack disappears off routines, then I can earn 20 points by practicing. There've also been more stories. Now, Spanish has a lot of stories and they're putting a lot of work into Spanish stories. So these are some sets of stories. I'm not sure how many there are. I think there may be 25 sets, but I'm gradually working through those. And as soon as I do this particular story, then I'm going to open up set 8. But really, even at this set of stories, so I've done nearly all of set 7, there hasn't been a lot of past tense being used there. So I'm thinking that there's a lot more richness in the stories, a lot of practice. The other things with the stories is that when you first do a story, let me just show you, everything is going to be shown to you. So when you go and do the story,
Teo está en casa con Leandro. Su compañero de cuarto.
Hasta luego, Leandro.
Okay, so you can see that every person's words, because this is the first time I've done this story, are actually being shown to me. Let me just X out of there. And let's go and do a story that I've done previously.
Lily y Sari están en la clase de arte de Oscar.
Lily, ¿puedo ver tu tarea?
So this time, because I've already done the story once, one of the characters' words are going to be hidden from me. So that encourages me to listen and hear rather than just try to read. And I found that really valuable. It also means that going back and repeating a story has a lot of value to it. So not only are you earning the points, but you're also being forced into listening. You can, of course, reveal the content if you want to see what they actually said, if you're not able to understand it from just listening to it. But it does encourage you to develop those listening skills. So I really like what they've done with stories. I like more stories, and I like the fact that they're hiding one half of the conversation. The features that I don't like about Duolingo is that sometimes things change. So you can see that I'm in a league now with 30 people. It's usually 50. I'm not sure that it's been changed permanently to 30 or whether I'm just in a group that's smaller. But I sort of get a bit weird about things changing like that. Also, one day I was in a group of 50 where I think 15 people were going to be removed, and that was like, oh my goodness, I have to get up near the top because I don't want to be one of the people who gets removed. So that was a bit of a shock. And also, that's a reminder that whenever you're in your league, make sure that you know how big the immersion zone is going to be. If you want to keep your place or go up, you need to make sure that you're in the right place. The other thing is I have a lot of points. So let me just show you. I have 29,000 odd points. Well, when you go to the store, there's really nothing for me to buy. I can do a double or nothing, that's 50 gems. I can have a monthly streak repair, which I've paid for, but I've never used because I've always done it every day. I could buy an outfit for my Duolingo character, but basically there's nothing for me to buy. And so I've got a lot of points that I'm racking up, but nothing to spend them on. It would be kind of nice if they gave us things that we could spend them on. Now, one of the other things that sort of bugs me a little bit at times is the explanations that you need for what it is that you're learning. I've found that I'm quite often going through a lesson and sort of just hitting a word and just hoping that it's right without really understanding how the grammar's working. So I found that things like conjugating verbs in the past tense I was struggling with, the differences between AR verbs and IR verbs and ER verbs, even those being regular verbs, put aside the irregular verbs. And I found actually that one of the handouts that I got from my Spanish class gave me the information I needed. So that was kind of cool that I got it somewhere else. But sometimes Duolingo, it doesn't give you all the grammar information that would be really helpful to you. I also struggled enormously with numbers. I really didn't remember the numbers. And there is actually a pattern that you can use. And so I found a video on YouTube, and I totally encourage you to look up things on YouTube. I found a video on YouTube that explained the numbers, and this person went through it in quite detail. And after that, I was pretty fine with the numbers. I understood them way, way better. But I had to go somewhere outside of Duolingo to learn that. I wasn't finding that on Duolingo. So look at things online, look at YouTube. I found that LiveLingua is also a really good website if you want to get the conjugation of an entire verb, and particularly irregular verbs. You can get the entire conjugation. And so sometimes that was really good for me. I keep that in my notebook just to be able to have it handy if I need to refer to it. As far as tips that I have for anybody learning Duolingo, the first one would be to use that harder practice. I'm really, really impressed with it. Some days I don't want to do anything new, and so just going back to earlier lessons and doing the harder practice, I feel like I'm still reinforcing my learning, even though I'm not quite up to learning something new that day. The other thing is this. So here I've got childhood, and I've got it to level 3, and I've done 4 out of the 5 sections in level 4. Well, I won't do the 5th one at the same time as I've done the previous one. So I won't come in here and say do level 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 all in one sitting. I won't even do 3, 4, and 5 in one sitting. I like to leave the very last one until the end because when you do this one, in this case you're getting to try the hardest exercises from level 3. Sometimes I'll also give you the things that you missed out already in level 3. And so I like to leave a space between when I did lessons 1, 2, 3, and 4 of level 3 before I do level 5, because that gives me a chance to either really remember the stuff that I missed or realize that I really did miss it and it's something that I need to practice. So I strongly suggest that you leave lesson 5 out of 5 and do it on a day when you didn't do other lessons in that level. I think it's just more valuable. One of my other tips is to just take it easy. Enjoy the process. Don't overly force yourself to do things. I think at 20 points a day XP challenge is pretty good. These days I can do it by just doing some practice, some hard practice, or I can get that by doing 2 lessons from a level. So here if I did lesson 1 out of 5 and 2 out of 5, that would be my 20 points. I think that it's worthwhile to mix things up. So mix things up between stories, between hard practice, between perhaps easy practice, even restoring some of these, and also mix it up between the levels that you're working in. Here I'm ready to start getting towards level 5 of work. So things are going to be quite hard there. Also, this one's going to be quite hard. It's the last lesson in a level, and so that's going to be difficult. But these are going to be much easier, these level 1s. So I like to keep a lot of different levels going. Some 4s, some 3s, some 2s, some 1s. And that variety also helps because you're getting some things that are fairly easy and some things that are way harder. I suggest that you sign up to do something every day so that you set a goal for every day. Don't make it too high a goal, make it achievable, but you might be surprised at how far beyond your goal you actually go each day. Now, one thing I want to make clear is that I actually paid for Duolingo. I did that because I was finding that the heart system where you got a certain number of hearts each day, and once you'd blown them by making a mistake, you either had to watch ads or you had to come back the next day. I found that really cumbersome because I was really quite focused on learning Spanish, that those elements of Duolingo were getting in the way. And so I paid up for it, and I would do it again this year. And wholeheartedly, I will be paying for Duolingo. I don't want to be in the situation where I can only make 5 mistakes in a day. I'd like to be able to make as many mistakes as I like and continue to learn, because of course you can't get out of any of these lessons until you get everything right. So it's not like making a mistake is a huge thing, because you absolutely cannot get to the end of a lesson unless you get every single thing in that lesson correct. And so there's enough of a challenge in that. So I paid for it. I'm really happy I paid for it. I think it's highly worth it if you're really serious about learning a language. If you can afford it, pay for it. The other thing that is a bonus by paying for Duolingo is that you're helping to support the app and help support learning for people who can't afford it. And so if you can possibly pay for it, then you're also helping somebody else to learn who isn't in the financial position that you're in. And that makes me feel good. So I hope that's been of some help to you if you're wondering whether you're going to even sign up for Duolingo, whether you're going to pay for Duolingo, where you think you might be in 12 months' time if you start with Duolingo now. If you have questions, please put them in the comments below. I'm happy to try and answer them for you. If you want to follow me, on the screen now is my ID, so you can just friend me on Duolingo and follow me and just see how I'm progressing, and I'm happy to follow you back as well. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you learnt lots. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And if I post additional Duolingo videos in future, you'll be alerted. Until next time, my name's Helen Bradley, and thank you so much for joining me here on my YouTube channel.